My next guest doesn't need much of an introduction. We got Colby Covington back here on the program. Colby, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. Just thankful to be alive. It's a special day. You can never forget in America what happened on this day, September 9/11. So, I'm grateful to be alive. And there's hope in the world that, the first responders and the military and the servicemen, came to give their lives to this country and put their lives in harm's way for the vicious attacks that happened on American soil.
Very well said. Where were you on 9/11?
I was actually in elementary school. I was in my classroom, and I remember seeing it on the news. It was just a surreal day. Just really when it put life in perspective, and just to be thankful for just to be able to go home to your family every day. So it's a special day in my heart.
What's the latest with you? I mean, we've heard obviously that the Darren Till got this fight with Woodley, and it was supposed to be your fight, and we hear there was an injury. What exactly happened, and when are you looking to return to the cage?
Yeah, they wanted me to turn around and fight, 6 weeks after I just fought a 5-round world title fight against, arguably one of the best fighters of all time, RDA. He has a lengthy history, and it wasn't reasonable. Not only did I just get out of 5-round war, but I also went into that fight with some sinus issues. As you can still hear in my voice, I'm still getting over the surgery that I did on my sinuses. So, my sinuses were completely blocked. I couldn't breathe. I had a lot of mucus draining from my nose to my lungs. So, I want to be at 100% for my next fight. It's going to be the biggest fight, if not the biggest fight in history, one of the top 5 biggest fights in the UFC history. So I want to be 100% for that and really show my full potential.
And I know you didn't watch the fight live. You were busy having a threesome, from what I heard on on one of your interviews earlier this week. But did you have a chance to watch the fight with Tyron Woodley and Darren Till yet?
Yeah, I watched it back. I got the play-by-play when it was going on, but I watched it back. Nothing special. You got the overhyped doughboy who should have never been rewarded with the fight when he's missed weight in a third of his UFC fights, and he was all hype. He beat a clown boy, and then he beats choir boy by a gift judge's decision in his home country. So. And nothing special out of Woodley. If anything, Woodley should be giving me credit for the chip on his shoulder he's gotten for fighting the way he's fighting, because now I'm breathing down his neck, and he knows what I got, and that's the real belt over here.
What were your thoughts on his performance? Did you expect Woodley to go in there and finish Darren Till?
I didn't expect him to finish him, but I definitely expected him to beat him. I didn't know how he was going to beat him, but I knew his experience was going to be too much for Doughboy, and just that, Till is overrated. He's overhyped. He's the marketing machine behind the UFC. He's got a bunch of fake followers, but those fake followers aren't going to be able to help him in the octagon when that octagon gets closed. So nothing special. Woodley showed the same stuff he always shows. All he does is throw a right hand. He's not going to be able to do that against me. I'm going to pressure fight him like Rory McDonald, and you saw what Rory McDonald did to him, and that was in 3 rounds. Just imagine when I get on my hands on him for 5 rounds. So, nothing special out of Ty Quill. His career is going to get ended soon by me.
One thing, I don't know if you saw it today, it seems that Michael Chiesa is suing Conor McGregor for the Dolly incident that happened at 223. What are your thoughts on that, just hearing that news?
It makes sense that he's trying to sue him to get some money out of him, because his failing career is coming to an end. So he's got to get some money somehow. I guess he's got some dream that he was supposed to get a title shot. So now he thinks he's owed and deserved money. So let him be entitled and think whatever he wants for his money. He ain't going to get no more money in the UFC, that's for sure. His fighting skills suck.
Speaking of money, New York obviously is the big pay-per-view coming up after the Conor McGregor card. UFC 230, they don't have a main event. Is that what you're looking at, you and Tyron Woodley? Is there any update on that?
Yeah, I'm ready for it. If they want to give me the slot, I'm ready. The biggest name in the game today. I got the Trump family ready to come right down the street and witness history. So, I'll be ready. I'll be prepared for it. I don't know what they're trying to do. I've heard rumblings behind the scenes. Maybe they're trying to get John Jones there, but who knows what's going on with his legal issues and if he's out of jail yet or whatever's going on in his life. So, I'd be willing to fight Tyron Woodley at Madison Square Garden, but now he's making excuses about some little thumb injury. He needs to get his thumb. He needs to go suck on his thumb with his mommy and then take some Advil. So we'll see what happens, but I'll be ready.
Is Toronto an option if New York is too soon? Because that's coming up on the 8th of December. Is that a card you'd be interested in? Because they don't really have a main event either at this point.
Wherever the UFC needs me, that's where I'm willing to go. If Toronto is the spot, I'm willing to come over there. We'll see what happens. GSP, if he wants to fight still, we'll see. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know.
When was the last time you talked to the UFC about what's happening with your next fight?
The last time I talked to them was, I think right before I went to, or right after I went to the White House. They called me and just said, hey, you'll fight the winner. So now we got to see what happens. You know, Tyron, now he's going to fucking race bait and he's going to complain and he's going to say, oh, I want all this money. Give me all this money. Give me more money. So who knows what's going to happen. I'm ready to fight whenever. I'm only fighting Tyron Woodley or a GSP type fighter. So, you know, I'm willing to wait for him and wherever that lines up. You know, if it may be Super Bowl weekend, you know, that may be the biggest card that we can get the fight going on, you know, if they don't want to do New York. So, you know, I'm looking for the big fight venues, if it's Vegas, Toronto, wherever it needs to be. But, you know, I'm here to make the welterweight and the UFC great again.
You'd be willing to wait that long if it meant a bigger payday for something like a Super Bowl card?
Just for timing, you know, whenever the UFC needs us, if they have the slots filled for the pay-per-views, then need be, you know, then Super Bowl is where it plans out. But obviously, we're only going to fight on pay-per-view. I'm not going to be fighting on free TV like some of these other jobbers in the UFC. So, you know, we'll see how it lines up and how things play out. But I'll be ready for whenever.
We haven't talked since you went to the White House. That was, I mean, I know you said that was in the works, but this totally flew under the radar in terms of like no one knew that you were going. And then we see the photo with Dana White, with Donald Trump. Then we see the photo of you. How did this all come together with you going to the White House? Because it was like top secret.
Yeah, it was top secret. You know, obviously the Secret Service, you know, had to keep us on the wraps. We weren't allowed to open our mouths or say anything. So we were keeping on the down low. But, you know, it came about from my winning, you know, my winning and then my promoting skills. You know, I said I wanted to take this belt right here and I wanted to take it to the White House. This is the replica. I actually gave my real belt that they got wrapped around my belt in Chicago to Donald Trump. And by the way, when he got the belt, he was like trying to give it back to me. And he was like, no, you're going to give me this belt. And he was like so excited when I left the belt with him, you know. So, you know, that was awesome to give him my real belt. But I got the replica here, which is just as nice. But, yeah, it was a great moment. You know, it was history. No fighters ever went to a sitting president in the office. So, you know, I'm making history every day. And that's what I'm here to do is make the welterweight division great again.
How long did you talk to Donald Trump when you were at the White House?
We got to talk for a good 45 minutes. You know, it was pretty crazy. Because, you know, I thought it was just going to be a photo op, but, you know, he actually sat down with us and shared some stories. You know, we laughed. You know, he was telling us his pro wrestling story with Vince McMahon, you know, at SummerSlam or WrestleMania, I believe. He did the hair versus hair match with Vince McMahon and you know, pretty funny story. And then he was just telling me about how much he respected me as a wrestler because, you know, he wrestled in high school and he wasn't very good. He was always the guy that was counting the lights, which means in wrestling, when you're counting the lights, you're on your back, so you weren't very good. But just pretty funny, man. He's a funny guy, stand-up guy. He's a really humble and down-to-earth person. So anything anybody says about him, you know, if they got bad things to say about him, try and say them around me. They'll get slapped.
Speaking of politics, I know you had some thoughts on the Colin Kaepernick Nike ad. You had the tweet there. What are your thoughts on the whole thing? You know, with Nike trying to back Colin Kaepernick.
I think it's a joke. You know, this is Colin Kaepernick's the same guy that gave $25,000 to some guy over in Cuba that was some killer. So. You know, the guy's a piece of shit, you know, and Nike's even more of a joke. You know, they're using child slave labor overseas to make their products. And now all of a sudden they want to become humanitarians. So, you know, I just have to laugh, you know, that they're trying to take a political stance. They're a clothing company. You know, you shouldn't do that. But, you know, they're going to lose a lot of business now. You know, I know I threw away all their stuff and I know I'll never support them. And I come from Oregon where Nike's pretty big. You know, Phil Knight, his origin is over in Oregon. That's where his main campus for Nike's at. So, you know, it's a joke. You know, they're going to lose a lot of business by doing this and trying to take a political stance.
The other thing that happened recently, not recently, I should say maybe a month or so ago, you went to Raw. It was going on. I actually talked to Dan Lambert when he was in Calgary, you know, there for some of the ATT guys. And obviously you got a good chance going there. How was that whole experience getting to see Raw backstage?
Oh, Raw was an eye-opener, man. It was an unbelievable experience. You know, be able to go backstage and see all the pro wrestlers, you know, get to hang out with Kurt Angle, you know, my good friend Bobby Lashley from American Top Team, me and Dan Lambert and John Hartnett. We got to see it all. We hung out with Ronda Rousey. We got to share a good moment with her for 20, 30 minutes, just talking, sharing stories about fights and stuff. So it was a cool opportunity. You know, I got to talk to Paul Heyman. He was running me through some stuff and, you know, everybody's just stand-up people there, and the pro wrestling world, they really respect the MMA world. So, you know, the thing is I'm doing pro wrestling better than the pro wrestlers are doing. So, Uh, it was a great moment. We got to see all those guys and see what the future holds, because that's what I feel like the future holds for me. I'm going to go over there and be a WWE champion. What's up, Vince McMahon?
Yeah, is there any progress on that? You talked about that last time about there has been talks. Was there any further conversations with Vince when you were there?
Yeah, I know Dan Lambert, my manager, is in talks. I let him do that. I just focus on training and getting better in all aspects of my life, and wrestling and fighting and as a person. So, I leave that up to my agent, Dan Lambert. And, I know he's talking to him, but first things first, I'm still competitively hungry, and I still have the itch to defend what's mine. That's this belt. So, I got to go out there and defend this belt against the number one contender, Tyron Woodley. And then we'll talk about WWE after that.
Just one more thing. You mentioned talking to Ronda Rousey. Anything specific you guys talked about, backstage? You mentioned swap and fight stories. Anything cool that came out of that?
She was just telling us, about her, about all the promotion that led up to her fights, and how she wanted to sell the fights and this and that. But she's a really humble person. I know she gets a lot of slack from the media, for all her antics and the way she promoted fights. And she was always that girl that was in the girl's face, and everybody says she's a snob, but she's actually a really humble person. She gives back a lot of her time. She donates a lot, and she's just a good person. She was telling us some funny stories about like Twizzlers, how Twizzlers is one of her sponsors, and just how she gives away Twizzlers to a lot of kids. So she's just a good person, and she's one of the biggest names in the WWE now. So I'm excited for her success and wish her nothing but continued success.
Another big name in the WWE is CM Punk, and I don't know if you saw yesterday, he called you racist. What were your thoughts on that? Him going after you?
Uh, this is also coming from a guy that stole all his wrestling moves from Kenta. So, he's a fake motherfucker. So you can't believe anything that comes out of his mouth. So, I didn't hear those remarks. I don't pay attention to someone who's irrelevant to MMA. I mean, the guy's a complete joke. Don't use my name to try and get some notoriety and clout in the MMA world, because you're a joke, man. You're 0-2 in the UFC against two bums they had to bring in. So CM Punk should stick to his little bullshit and leave the prime time to me.
So what are you doing in the meantime as you're waiting for this fight? I talked to Tony Martin yesterday. He was really giving you props, helping him get ready for his fight with Ryan LaFleur. Is it just helping your teammates out until this fight gets booked?
Man, I love the process, man. That's what's different, separates me from anybody else. I love the process, the journey, man, and I trust the journey. So, I'm getting better every day, man. Just because I'm not in camp or I don't have a fight schedule doesn't mean I'm not out there improving, working on my skill set. So every time I've ever stepped in that UFC octagon, I've gotten better every single fight. So, me and Tyron Woodley, we trained 5 years ago, and I was getting the better of him. So I've only gotten better since then. I only gotten stronger, only gotten hungrier. So he's gotten older, he's gotten slower, he's gotten dumber, and he's definitely, a joke, freaking doing all his little TMZ Hollywood stuff. So, the best version of me is going to be my next fight. It doesn't matter when or where it's at. You will see me get this retained, and I will have 12 pounds of gold back around my waist.
Are the only options at this point Woodley or George St. Pierre? Is there anyone else that you'd want to fight, or is those the only two options?
I'd fight Nick Diaz, but he's not going to fight me. I already know that. But I would fight him just because he's been running his mouth, and he's put some videos out there about me. So if he thinks he's so hard and he thinks he's, 209 West Coast, I'm from the West Coast too, bitch. I run the West Coast. I run the whole world, motherfucker. So Nick Diaz, what's up? You want to do this? You want to get knocked out on the same card as your little brother?
Okay. And what is your message for Tyron Woodley if he's watching this right now?
My message for Tyron Woodley is enjoy it while it lasts, motherfucker. Everything you work for, I'm taking it. Everything's going to be sacrificed. Your little Hollywood fake career, your B-list movies, your family. You're going to have to go back to your wife and kids every single night knowing that I left you in a pool of your own blood and you left the octagon in a stretcher. So brace up, motherfucker. Your end is near.
Colby, always a pleasure, man. Appreciate the time. People know where to find you on social media, but if you want to give any thank yous or shout outs or anything like that, man, the floor is yours.
I just want to give a big thank you to the troops and to America and to our great president, Donald Trump. It's an honor to be an American, and I'm proud to be an American. God bless America.